Well, here we are. Just like that, the championship is finally back, and QPR's first opponents of the 2024-25 season, West Brom, await us on Saturday lunchtime. In the first part of my first match preview of this new season, I'm joined by Chris Hall of Albion Analysis to talk us through all things West Brom, while in the second part I'll be focusing more directly on QPR's preparations. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy this video, or if you want to support the channel further, you can consider becoming a Hoopsa member for $1.99 a month via the link in the description. Let's get straight into it. Hi Chris, welcome to the channel. How are you doing?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, how are you this fine Thursday morning?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Are you looking forward to the start of the season? I don't know about you, it feels like it's come about really, really quickly.
Oh yeah, I mean with the Euros, it's like it's been non-stop football, really, hasn't it? I mean, so much so to the point where I've basically paid no attention to our pre-season, really, because as in pre-season games, because it's like you've been almost completely saturated with football. Because there's normally a point when the European Championships just completely turn you off because England get dumped out by somebody that they shouldn't, and you have a week where you can't bring yourself to watch football. But the fact that we went all the way through to the final just kept me engaged all the way through. So yeah, it's been a big summer of football. It really has.
Yeah, and sport in general, really, it's been pretty non-stop. So you're right. It feels like it's not been away at all. Well, before we get into sort of talking about West Brom's summer, I thought we'd start at the end of last season. Obviously, few had West Brom down as playoff contenders at the start of last season, but Corberán took West Brom from the relegation zone when he joined in 22-23 to a fifth place finish last season. So, what was the feeling at the end of the season after that playoff semi-final?
Pretty positive, to be honest. It kind of hurt for sort of 24, 48 hours. I've got to say the bus journey back, which took till about 1 in the morning from Southampton, was pretty miserable. But once you've kind of got over the initial emotion of it, I think you realise that a couple of things. First of all, that we, as you say, we massively overachieved last season. What we did was not expected, because we had a mess of an ownership. We had an aging squad. We also had a mishmash of a squad, which was kind of plugged together by various different managers. We've gone through managers, to be honest, you can probably empathize, but we've gone through managers like most people go through hot dinners in recent years, and it's led to a very disparate squad, which, because we've never really recruited a manager to a particular style either. So we bring in Valerian Ishmael and he wants to get rid of all creative midfielders and just have workers in the middle of the park, but then you replace him with Steve Bruce, who does want to play with a number 10, so you end up with Adam Reach playing in the number 10 because you haven't got anybody else. And it's just been the fact that Corberán had managed to pull that together and pull that group of players together with no money to spend either. By the way, we hadn't, up until this summer, we hadn't spent a penny since we paid 300 grand for Brandon Thomas Asante, in terms of transfer fees. So to do what he did with no money to spend, with having to lose our best defender in the summer in Dara O'Shea as well, with practically everybody else seeming to be up for sale, and the backdrop of a takeover going on as well, it was unbelievable. So I think you have to also recognise the fact that every club in the championship was hampered last season by the fact that the three clubs who came down were none of the clubs that had gone up the previous year. So you had three clubs coming down with enormous wealth compared to the rest of the division. Squads full of players who'd been Premier League players for 4 or 5 years. And it wasn't a shock that three of the top four, and world of credit to Ipswich for breaking into that, by the way, but it wasn't a massive shock that three of the top four were those three relegated clubs, because I think this season will be different because you've got the three teams that went up coming back down. They haven't got 3, 4, 5 years of Premier League building behind them. I don't think they're going to be as powerful as Leeds, Leicester, and Southampton were last season. The top four, you wrote them off by Christmas. They were gone, and everybody else in the league was finishing fifth or sixth. So I think the way we look at it, and the way we have to look at it, is we finished top of the division that we could finish top of.
Yeah, that's definitely a good way to look at it. I mean, yeah, a really positive season, I think, overall for West Brom. Obviously, you had the change of ownership in February as well, which must have given the fan base a huge lift, knowing that, you're moving forwards to hopefully operating more like a modern football club now. So talk to me about West Brom's summer outgoings, first of all. So 15 players have left in all, most of which were broadly to be expected. A few expiring contracts, Kipra, Phillips, Chalobah. But a need to meet FFP has seen your top scorer leave. Thomas Asante's gone to Coventry. Your Kozlu's gone out to Turkey. And the club's now under a transfer embargo, which I
No,
guess
it's
is a
not.
result.
No, it's
Is it
not.
not?
No, it's not. No, no. So, see, this is the problem with Sky's reporting.
Yeah.
That they're very sensationalist. Categorically, we are not under a transfer embargo. What Sky said is that we are under a EFL business plan,
Right.
which basically means that we have to have transfers ratified by the EFL, which frankly makes next to no difference unless we try and basically sell off the ground and spend 10 million quid on someone. And then the EFL are going to turn around and go, you can't afford to do that. The only difference between us and everybody else in the division is that everybody else in the division, if they wanted to ruin their club, can, because they could go and say sign Messi on a 2-year contract on 200 grand a week, and the EFL they don't have any say in ratifying or not. The difference is if we try and do a ludicrous transfer, the EFL can veto it. But as long as we do sensible business, and we are continuing to do sensible business, we're not under transfer embargo. We've signed 2 players yesterday. So what the way Sky reported it was like that was a big story last Saturday. It's not. It's a non-story. We've been working to a business plan all summer, which, when you talk about the players outgoing, is what we've been doing. We've been trying to get the wage bill down because we know it's not sustainable. We've been trying to get rid of players this summer who have 1 year left on their deal for money, so that we're not losing them for free. So that's why Townsend's gone. That's why Yokoslu's gone. That's why Brandon Thomas Asante's gone. And that's why there's a fairly good chance probably Jason Malumbi will go quite possibly to Millwall, because they've all got 1 year left, and we don't want to lose them next year for nothing. So we've made about 1.5 million off Yokoslu. We've made 750 grand off Connor Townsend. We've made about 3 million quid, 3 to 4 million quid off Brandon Thomas Asante. We've basically made the better end of £6.5 million off players that we would have lost for nothing last year, which is enormous for us. And also, we've got rid of a 31-year-old, a 30-year-old, and okay, Brandon's 25. That was probably the least palatable of the outgoing transfers. But we got rid of Connor Townsend, who was on somewhere around sort of 25k a week. Okay, Koslu, who's on somewhere around 30k a week. You guys have been through this. You remember back to when you had to sell off your. Yeah, I mean, you made the mistake of probably keeping Charlie Austin a little bit too long on the wages that he was on. You had to sell Matt Phillips to us, because you get to a point where you are beyond your parachute payments and you can't afford these contracts anymore. And people are looking at it like it's a fire sale at Albion. It's really not. We've just, to be honest, these players, some of them should have gone. Some of them shouldn't have been signed in the first place. I love Swift, Wallace, and Newcastle, but we shouldn't have signed them on the contracts that they're on.
Mm.
Ron Gourlay was gambling everything on promotion, and promotion never came. And some of them should have gone a long time ago. Matt Phillips shouldn't have been kept as long as he was. Carl Bartley's now on reduced terms. He shouldn't have been kept as long as he was on the contract that he was on. We've made a lot of mistakes. What we're doing is trying to rectify those mistakes. And you see the business that's incoming, and it's young players like Hegum at 25, Diakate at 23. We signed Frabotta who's 25. You've got Lewis Dobbin, a 21-year-old loanee, to replace these older statesmen, but also players coming in from League One, the Swedish League, the Austrian Bundesliga. Frabotta, okay, came from Juventus, but he's played his last 3 seasons in Serie B. These are not players that are going to command big wages. We're trying to make up for the mistakes of the past. We've been hampered by an extremely poor ownership who spent people talk about lie like he didn't spend money. He did. He just spent it stupidly. And he gave out stupidly big contracts that we couldn't afford. He gave long contracts. We had amortized payments on people like Carlin Grant over 6 years, and Grady Dean Garner broken down over the length of his contract as well, which we can't afford when we don't get promoted. I think Lai seemed to think there was some sort of guarantee that we'd get back up to the Premier League, and stay there. And unfortunately, we went back up. We only stayed there for 1 year. We're just trying to rectify the wrongs of the past, but we are not. This is not like when Derby went down, or when Bolton went down, or even going back a few years when Stockport went down, and these clubs had to play teams of kids because there was no senior players left in the squad. We're selling off older statesmen to replace them with younger, hopefully hungrier, granted less proven players, but we're trying to do clever scouting, whereas we've kind of bought the blindingly obvious targets. Signing Swift and Wallace that one window was, I mean, we called it on our pod, not because we're some sort of recruitment geniuses, but because it was bleeding obvious to anybody who knew a modicum about Championship football that they were the best two players available that summer. We're not doing that this summer. We're not going after your Callum O'Hares, your Kiefer Moores, even your Alan Browns, Chris Willocks. You kind of jobbing Championship journeyman, or even in terms of upcoming talent. We're not buying proven Championship players. We're buying players that we either think can come up from League One and become better, or players from abroad that want their shot at the English game, and we believe they've got the quality to do it.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I think, QPR are in a similar position where we're trying to operate differently as a club, and you can see that in the recruitment that we've done this summer. So it's really interesting that, that sounds like West Brom are doing the same thing. What's the expectation then this season with these new players coming in? As you said, exciting, younger, hungrier, hopefully, but unproven. And also, what have you made of pre-season? Obviously, you cannot read into pre-season results, but is it 5 losses out of the 6
Oh,
matches that
we've
you
been
played?
bloody awful in pre-season. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. You're right. I mean, pre-season means nothing, but I'm also not going to hide from the fact that, and I've watched a couple of the games, and it's not just that we've lost. We excuse my French, we've been crap. But it is what it is. We have been bad in pre-season, but also it's kind of been one of those where, I mean, you take the Birmingham game where we got beat 4-1 last weekend, and we had I think Jason Malumbi was the only real, what you would call, senior player on the substitutes bench outside of, in terms of outfield players. So when we started changing things around the 70th minute, we suddenly started shipping goals, because Birmingham have got an unreal squad for League One, and they start bringing on players that would get into most Championship teams, and we're bringing on kids, and we got battered in the end. And I'm not reading too much into it. I do think, and this isn't making excuses before the game, I don't think we're ready for this weekend. I think from your point of view, I think you should be looking at it as catching us at a really good time, because I do think when we get into September and we've done all of our business, and we've bedded these players in, and I do think we're doing good business, and I think we will continue to do good business. I think we will be a completely different animal to the one we are now. Personally, think we're a little bit there for the taking this weekend. Because we've brought in Frabotta and Dobbin this week. Dobbin might be ready to play. I find it hard to believe Frabotta will be. We've brought in McNair and we've brought in Cole, but neither of them have managed to play a minute yet in pre-season. So we've had a lot of players go out, and whilst there's 4 other players that we've brought in there, those 4 have not kicked a ball yet in an Albion shirt. So I think it's a good time to play us. I think in 2-3 weeks' time we're going to be a completely different prospect, to be honest with you. But no, in terms of pre-season, it's been difficult because we've sort of prepared with a certain team. Yokoslu wasn't too much of a loss because he didn't play a minute of football. But in terms of our preparation, he wasn't too much of a loss. I mean, he is a loss because he's a great player. But in terms of preparation, he wasn't too much of a loss because obviously he was at Turkey all the way through the Euros. So, so he actually hadn't. I think he had one training session before he was sold. So it was neither here nor there in terms of our preparation. Townsend much more so, and Brandon Thomas Asante, because they played in every preseason game up until that point. And then on top of that, we've picked up a couple of injuries. Grady Dean Garner's probably out till about September. Jed Wallace, we're not really sure what the situation is with him. There was a report that he was having to go for a scan because he missed the Birmingham game, and it looks like he's going to have a scan on a knee problem. So we really are. I'm not making excuses for preseason, but we have because some of the defending doesn't matter who plays. Like some of the goals we conceded against Birmingham, you cannot concede goals like that. It was embarrassing. But we have been down to the bare bones for much of preseason, partly because of players being sold, and partly because we've had a couple of unfortunate injuries, and we haven't quite managed to bring the 4 out of our 6 new signings into the side. 7, sorry, Joe Wildsmith, but outfield signings, keepers don't really count because we know Alex Palmer's going to start in goal. It's it's one of those, we just don't feel quite ready for the weekend, and it's a particular annoyance of mine that the season starts this Friday, well, tomorrow really, but for us the 10th of August, and yet 20 days later the transfer window closes. It's ludicrous. It doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem fair. And I'm not whinging because this is a problem that we've encountered this season. I've always thought this, even when we've had the money to do our business early, and we benefited last season because we played a really weakened Leeds side on the second week of the season when they didn't play Somerville, they didn't play Nonto because they thought those players were going. That's not right. It's not right, and it's not fair. And championship clubs, because they have to wait for the Premier League clubs to do their business and know whether they've bought their players and what players they're letting go on loan and everything like that. Championship clubs, most of us can't do their business early, not unless you sell somebody big, like like for example Leicester, Southampton did last season. Leeds have obviously sold Archie Gray. Okay, then maybe you can do a bit of early business, but clubs like Albion, QPR, we can't go doing the bulk of our business early because we haven't got the money, and we need the market to start moving, and we need loans to become available. And it's wrong that the transfer window closes 20 days after the season starts.
Yeah, I totally agree. QPR are in exactly the same situation right now. You're saying about the signings coming in for West Brom, they're not going to be ready for Saturday. We're in exactly the same position. 5 players brought in, not sure how involved all of those are going to be. And yeah, we're feeling pretty undercooked too, particularly in an attacking sense. We've not really brought in any attacking recruits other than a new forward. So you're right, we could be looking at a bit of a stalemate on Saturday, given that neither team are the finished article. And I imagine very few teams across the Championship are going to be feeling like they are. And
I
it is
just find it
amazing, really.
strange. I just find it strange that that we play August, so we'll all play 3 games before the transfer window shuts. Well, assuming things like the riots don't impact games, it scheduled our 3 games between now and the end of the end of August, and yet those teams, for you're right, probably for 80% of the league, won't bear any strong resemblance to the team that plays the rest of the season. So that's 9 points played for that is not really representative of the season. It's almost like giving out 9 points for pre-season.
Well, you could be
But
9 points cut adrift by the end of
and
August.
but also what you at the end of the season, we all know what the championship is like. The the chances of finishing 9 points clear of the next team is very slim. So that those 3 games could be decisive in your season. And I again, going back to Leeds as my example, Leeds won 2 of their first 7 games last season. For me, that was the difference between them going up automatically and not. I think if they had started the season with having knowing that that the transfer window was shut, Nonto and Somerville were staying, I think that they would have won promotion because I don't think they'd have started with 2 wins in 7. Now, I have no proclivity towards Leeds. I couldn't care less whether they do well, do badly, whatever. So I'm not upset for Leeds, but I think that's wrong that Leeds' season is not representative of their squad. I just think it's not right. And I think it's not right that so many teams almost have to write August off to a certain degree or grind their way through August until they've got a squad. And it's like how are we calling this the most competitive league in the world? It is in the sense that it's always going to be tight, but it's not in the sense that you have August is almost like a gimme for some teams, or like you have to look at it and go, if we can get a few draws in August, then we'll just get through to September and then we'll have our squad. How is that a fair competition? It doesn't seem right to me.
No, no, I have to agree. And yeah, these teams could look so different come the end of the month. So let's focus on Saturday for now. There's still plenty of championship quality in this West Brom side, in my opinion. Carlos Corberán worked wonders last season despite little budget. Who are you expecting your key players to be this season? Obviously, you don't know much about about the new signings. And who should we be worried about on Saturday?
um, look, I think the one we're all really excited for is Tom Fellows. He had his breakthrough season last season in the second half of the campaign. Um, I just think I think he's a top winger at this level. It's interesting. He seems to have been really working on in pre, because the one negative about Tom Fellows last season was that he was quite predictable. He used to go to the line on that right foot and try and pull the ball back. It seems in pre-season like he's really been working on having the option of driving infield on his left foot. If he becomes a player that can go both ways, be scared, because I mean he's already quick, strong, tricky. If he develops a left foot as well, he's frightening. He really is. At the moment, the only drawback to Tom is that he's too right-footed. But let's see. He's clearly been working on that, and it'll be interesting to see whether he drives inside. Out of the new signings, I do like Diakate. He's a powerful central midfielder, but he seems to be able to drive forward from midfield a little bit more than Yukoslu would. So there's that. I think and I hope. By the way, I thought it was fantastic after the game at Loftus Road to see how many of your fans rallied around Darnell Furlong and had a go back at the moron who had a go at him in the crowd. And I do think Darnell will be an important player, because not least because of his long throws. We're a big team this year, and I think those long throws from the right hand side will be really a real threat. So I think one of your own could be. I mean, not that you need to know what to watch out for with Darnell Furlong, but I do think he'll be an important player. Um, and I think John Swift will go. He sort of flies under the radar for me with a lot of Albion fans. I think a lot about. I don't know whether it's because he's so neat and tidy about what he does and the way he keeps the ball moving that Albion fans, almost a lot of them, don't seem to see what John Swift is doing. They come away from games thinking Swift did nothing again because he doesn't hit 30-yard shots or ping crossfield balls, or or go racing past three players. But he's so clever with the passes that he plays, and his intelligence on the ball is almost unmatched at this level. So I think he'll be an important player, but he'll be neat and tidy, and he'll fly under the radar for a lot. But I think he'll be an important part of what we do. So yeah, I think Fellows will be the one that will catch your eye. I think Furlong will, to some degree, be the blunt instrument launching the ball into the box, and I think John Swift might be the little secret assassin that people aren't noticing, but actually he's behind the scenes being the puppeteer.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, Swift has ripped us apart in the past pre-West Brom, so I really wouldn't be surprised to see him do that on Saturday. You mentioned our previous meeting at Loftus Road, the 2-2. That was one of my favourite matches of last season. So to wrap us up, let's get your prediction for West Brom this season and a score prediction for Saturday, please.
Well, first of all, my prediction for this weekend is that we will play with just one goalkeeper. This for this game, so that's got to give you a better chance, hasn't it? Because facing two last season just seemed a tad unfair, if truth be told. It was a heck of a save, though, wasn't it? I mean,
It really was.
yeah, Peter Schmeichel in his prime would have been proud of that bad boy. But I've got to be honest. I mean, if the shoe had been on the other foot, I would have been absolutely fuming. But what I didn't understand about that was the amount of your fans that had a go at the officials for it, because I was watching at home. It took me 3 replays before I saw it. I'm sorry, anybody who saw that first time
Oh,
has
yeah.
the most unreal eyesight.
I watched it in the ground and I couldn't spot it. It was in a flash, you know.
Yes.
We were letting out, you know, there was frustration there clearly because of that performance. To come away with a point felt, you know, with
Yeah.
the way it ended. So, you know, that will have been why the officials take the brunt, as they often do. So
And they gave you a penalty that was never in a million years a penalty either. So, I mean, I'm not saying these things even themselves out, but because there's no excuse for a player handling the ball over the bar. But nonetheless, it was. If we'd had a save of the season competition, it would have won it. But in terms of prediction for our season, it, look, I mean, I've just done my 1 to 24s for the Albion Analysis Substack, and it's there's a couple of clubs that I found incredibly difficult to place. We're one, Hull are another, because there's so much business left to be done. You honestly don't know what the squad's going to look like. I put us in my 1 to 24s ninth, literally just above you guys. Actually, I'd got you guys in 10th. But to be honest, if that was before we did Frabotta and Dobbin, if we do a couple more really quality signings, I don't see any reason why we can't trouble the playoffs, to be honest with you. But I do think we will be slow to start. I don't think we will. I don't think we will take that many points in August. We haven't got a brilliant August either. I think if I remember correctly, our games are away at you, home to Leeds, and then away to Stoke, which is not the most welcoming start to the season. So yeah, I think we'll be slow to start, but I think we'll be one of those teams chasing the playoffs. Whether we can quite match last season's 5th place finish in a season of transition, I don't know. But we have got, for me, the best manager in the Championship. I think you guys have got the second best manager, by the way. I think Cifuentes is unreal. But like, I think that will carry us far. But it's whether turning over this many players, we can still get the form to get in the top 6. I wouldn't write it off, but at the moment, without the business being done, I'm sort of tentatively predicting us to be one of those teams who is there or thereabouts until sort of the latter weeks of the season and then just misses out. In terms of this weekend, as I say, I don't feel like we're ready. I think we'll get beat. I think it could be a fairly tight game. I don't think we've really got any goals in the team either. So 2-0 or 2-1 to Rangers, to be honest with you.
I'm very pleased to see that you think that we can score 2 goals. So that's definitely a plus.
Well, I certainly don't think we can. So there you
go. Chris, thank you so much for joining. Good luck for Saturday and good luck for the season.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much to Chris for chatting to me for this preview, and do make sure to check out the Albion Analysis podcast and Substack newsletter via the links in the description below. Moving on to QPR now, and I think much like West Brom's own pre-season, the only thing dampening the excitement of a new campaign starting is concern over where exactly the goals are going to come from. Not just in this match, but in the season as a whole, which is one of few catches to this team's growing potential under Martí Cifuentes. I'm really cautious of being too negative going into a new season in my first match preview, especially with how positively we ended the last. There's clearly been a great deal of work behind the scenes this summer to get the club in working order. We've seen 5 new players through the door so far, with fees paid for 2 for the first time in a long time, and there is a palpable buzz about the direction that this club is headed in. But if you've watched any of my recent videos, you'll know I just don't think we've done enough in the window to sharpen up our attack so far. Now, as Chris said, few teams are heading into this season as the finished article, but we've had all summer to correct this glaring problem, one that we've had for years, and yet so far Sella has been our only attacking signing. His goal scoring record does give confidence that he can be a potential solution, but during his limited minutes so far, he's suffered the same distinct lack of service as every other forward we've had in the past 4 or 5 years. And it's not just about putting the goals in the net either. Without Cher or Willock, we lack creativity, and with the departure of Armstrong, Smith is our only player with any kind of pace. Like Chris said though, you obviously can't read too much into preseason results. I'm concerned we haven't scored a goal in any of our 4 preseason fixtures since returning to England, but I thought we looked surprisingly sharp against Spurs, and we were unlucky not to get at least 1 goal with the number of chances that we created in that match. We weren't really at it at either end of the pitch against Brighton, and yet a strong side that featured in the Europa League last season were held to just a single penalty goal at Loftus Road, despite some mishaps from QPR playing out the back. That's a stark contrast to last summer's final preseason fixture, a 5-0 loss away at Oxford United, which was very much a sign of things to come at Watford the following weekend. While we wait for these attacking reinforcements to arrive, I think the most fascinating thing against West Brom and in the coming weeks will be to see how Cifuentes' new system plays out in a competitive setting. He abandoned his desired style of play early into his QPR tenure in a bid to seal our survival last season out of necessity, but now over the past 6 weeks, he's looked to implement a high possession style of play built from the back regardless of pressure, and one in which we look to win the ball back as quickly as possible when we lose it. The question is though, can this squad deliver that style of football? And if they can't, what's our plan B? We already saw what a high tempo side can do to apply pressure on this system last weekend, though that should in theory be the most intense press we endure for the next 8 months. This is why the start of a new season is both equal parts exciting and terrifying. It could all start to click on Saturday, and it could well click this season with a few extra signings if we continue on last season's trajectory. Here we have a fresh beginning under a manager and a CEO who have barely put a foot wrong during their short time at the club so far, one where they should be carrying much less of the trauma of the past 18 months on their backs. The Championship is, after all, a league where clubs that fail one season can greatly succeed the next, and vice versa. And outside of our attacking deficiencies, there are positives to be found. Martí Cifuentes was obviously a revelation for us last season, and we seem to have unearthed a genuinely good manager whose achievement in keeping us up last season was considerably out of proportion with the resources that he had available to him. Watching him from the start of this season this time rather than coming in firefighting should genuinely be exciting. Our defence, should Jake Clark-Salter remain, looks likely to continue to be very sturdy, with Marty boasting one of the most impressive in the league since his arrival, and Paul Nardi looks to be an upgrade on his predecessor, at least in his shot stopping. Those aspects of this team will be important in a very tricky opening month, especially if we have to wait until late into the window to get those attacking additions. Top target Jonathan Varane, finally secured last weekend, will be a welcome addition in the middle if he is the player that Cifuentes and co have envisaged. January signings Anderson and Frey should both be capable of offering much sharper iterations of themselves, having had an actual pre-season this time round. And Collie and Benny are young talents that look likely to be given an early platform to show what they can do. Cher, whenever he returns from injury, looks like he could well remain a QPR player, despite me thinking his departure is inevitable every summer, and this is going to be his 8th season with Queen's Park Rangers. And Santos, Morrison and Sella will hopefully all bring a freshness to this side once they're up to speed with English football. Get a few more in come the end of the window, the right players, and we might be more hopeful of a bit more than mid-table consolidation, even though that in itself would be progress after the last 2 seasons. Don't get those attacking additions in though, and it could well be another tough ride. It's that tight in this league, and it's what makes this fresh start so exciting, at least until 12:30 on Saturday. I think we'll need to be patient with this team and manager, both at the start and throughout the season. I know many fans think this time we can make top half, some have us as dark horses for the playoffs. I'm not sure I share quite enough optimism for the latter, but I certainly trust in Cifuentes and Nauri to make the right calls, and that's a hell of a contrast to this time last year with different people in those roles. For now though, we'll have to make do with what we've done so far. With no Chair and no Dykes, I'm expecting us to line up something like this on Saturday, with both Varane and Sella to come off the bench in the second half. So all that leaves is my own first score prediction of the season. As I said earlier, March's 2-2 home draw was one of my favourite matches of last season, but both are looking tamer sides at present, West Brom have lost top scorer Thomas Asante and impactful January loanee Mikey Johnston, but there is still plenty of championship experience in this side with the likes of Swift, Diangana and Mowat that can do us damage. I think our defence will prevail though, and so I'm going for a scintillating 0-0 opener. What about you? How are you feeling for the start of the season, and what is your score prediction for this first match? Let me know in the comments below, and if you've enjoyed this match preview, make sure you hit like and subscribe. It really helps me to grow the channel. Thanks again, and I'll see you on Sunday for my first post-match reaction of the season. Come on, you Rs!